Hey everyone, Nolar here, back with 5-9 Gaming and continuing on Mortal Kombat week. We've got reviewing the Mortal Kombat Legacy shorts. It's kind of interesting, but before we dive right in, I'm joined by Tystra. Tystra, say hello to the boys.
What is up, my dudes?
All right, but before we dive right in, if you're new here and like the content, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when we're live with other 5-9 videos. All right, so with the original Mortal Kombat movie and the awful sequel of Annihilation, seemed like it was the end of the Mortal Kombat franchise, as far as we know. There were a couple of other little shorts or prequels. I think Mortal Kombat Conquest was one of those, but could not find that easily to review. So we jumped ahead, and we're going to focus on the 2010s, where we have... So... essentially, Mortal Kombat Legacy was just a bunch of like web series shorts, which it originally debuted on Machinima, and it was supposed to be this big take that was more realistic and gritty version of Mortal Kombat, kind of grounded in the real world as opposed to the more...
Too bad you will die.
However, the real take, gritty take, kind of came and went. It was around when it was around. It was pretty effective, and other times it got real deep into the fantasy afterwards. But anyway, the shorts were like 5 minutes to 12 minutes, and you can view them as like anthology arcs, character arcs. So we'll kind of discuss a little bit, piece by piece, on each arc and give our thoughts and opinions on how those all played out. So let's go season 1. I think in season 1 there were 9 episodes, I want to say. Yeah. So episode 1 and 2 focused on the backstory of Sonya Blade, Jax, and the crime boss Kano, similar to a cops and crime boss setting. Sonya is basically taken prisoner. Jax leads a special forces team to take down Kano's gang, and features actors and actresses who, at the time, so in 2010s, were on a meteoric rise in their acting careers. Like Jeri Ryan, I've known her since for Star Trek Voyager. She's played Sonya Blade, and that was a nice welcome surprise. We have Michael J. White, who, for me, the 1990s Spawn film, he played Al Simmons there, and he now plays Jax. So yeah, what did you think about the first 2 episodes that talked about showcasing Kano, Jax, and Sonya?
Honestly, I thought they were really good episodes. I thought it was a good way to start, especially with how the kind of teaser trailer, almost call it a teaser, but it was like 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
But with the first 2 episodes, I thought it was great. Like, that was one of the things that I noticed, was that Michael J. White played Jax, and I was like, yes, because I knew I've seen a bunch of stuff with him, and so he was perfect for the Jax role. I thought he had the almost silent confidence about him, so you knew like he could play the Jax character well, and how that storyline went. You know, the guy who played Kano too, like he's such a good Kano. Like he really got into the role. I literally felt like I was watching Mortal Kombat with these 3 characters, like playing their roles perfect.
Yeah, so like to me, it was actually a pretty good setup, like you said, to start off the series at the bang. The action was good, the choreography was pretty awesome. Again, Michael J. White, because of Spawn, he's a martial artist, I'm pretty sure, so he knows his moves. So like he's the one that's like doing the action sequences. Doesn't have a stunt double in there, so it was a lot more convincing because he was capable of doing it. Again, he's not like a thespian actor, like he's not gonna do some dramas, and make you cry to death, but like for him, throwing a punch, get that silence confidence, as you were mentioning too, going, that was pretty good. The only thing I wasn't a fan of was they use it a lot, but it was just the camera motion. They did the whole like slow motion speed up ramping. So like they slow mo a kick and then speed ramp into it. And it's just kind of, to me, overused. Granted, in the first, the original Mortal Kombat movie, they used that sparingly. So like I kind of noticed it, but it wasn't like every other kick or punch or like impact. And it's like, kind of loses its luster. But aside from that little nitpick, everything else is really good. All right, so episode 3, we got to see action star Johnny Cage trying to pitch his latest production. It's a realistic and right in our world, since it's like framed creatively in like a TV documentary form. So what I find interesting is the initial actor was Matt Mullins, and he does an admirable job of being Johnny Cage, but the character Johnny Cage continues on in season 2 of Legacy, and it's played by another actor, which we will discuss later. But thoughts on how this episode played out?
It felt a little bit slower just because of the fact that it's Johnny Cage pitching a bunch of his stuff, but it was meant to be an explanation of his backstory on where he was going. So I thought it was the perfect way to like actually go through Johnny Cage's backstory. It was a good episode. It was slow paced, obviously, for like when it came to like the whole, just going through it, but it made sense. Like it was more informative than action, really. So
yeah, it like you said, the pacing was so slow. It felt like a filler episode, but really when you dissect it had merit and it had value to being the third episode, to continue to give these backstories. And again, these are all little arcs, character arcs, backstories of people before we get into the titular Mortal Kombat tournament, right? So overall, it was pretty decent, but not my favorite episode, clearly. All right, let's go to episode 4 and 5. Now, we take a turn from the gritty real-life stuff, and we're more into fantasy with the CGI and motion comic animations. We get an arc where we get the backstory for Kitana and Melina, but honestly, it feels a little cliche to me. I don't know how you felt about the story arc and how it is executed in the season.
It may that's the thing is they followed the story of how Kitana and Melina are. Kitana was basically abducted by Shao Kahn after King Jared was killed. Like that's how it goes in.
Yep.
The lore anyway. So it followed the lore. Like it did exactly what the lore told it to do. So again, it was just going through. It felt like season 1 was more of going through backstories, and then season 2 was where it ramped up. But yeah, it was the same thing with the Johnny Cage episode. It was slow pacing and kind of cliche, but it was a necessity for people who were just looking at this for the first time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think it kept us. It gave us the story, which is great, and it kept us going a little bit, but it wasn't enticing enough. And I felt the switch between real life actors and then the motion comic animation stuff kind of jarring a little bit. But it's cool, right? Like the style of it and the way presented is cool, but to me, it just didn't really click with me. But that's just me as a viewer, as a watcher. Sure, it clicks with a bunch of other people. So, all right, moving on to episode 6. So this one's actually, I won't say my favorite, but it's up there. We're back to the more realistic setting and away from fantasy. So how would you react if some dude claimed to be the Thunder God? You put them in a mental institution, right? And that's how this plays out. So yeah, this episode definitely hits the gritty realism that was promised in the pitches. So your take on this one?
This honestly, I think I told you before, but this was my favorite episode of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally a real take of if some crazy person went up to you and says, "I am a Thunder God, let me go." It's like, no, get back in the hospital. But it turns out he's actually Lord Raiden, the Thunder God. And there's one person that believes him, and it's somebody who's dealing with a lot of mental issues as well. And it really goes a little bit into how the old school mental institutions used to be like. And
right.
It makes you think of how it used to be. Nowadays, with the advancements in modern medicine and people actually being more sympathetic towards that, it's a lot different. But it goes to show you what happened back then and how evil some people can be. But I love this episode. It's always going to be my favorite of the series.
Yeah, it's up there with me, pretty high. I enjoyed the realism that it really brought, and how, again, if someone came to claim to be the Thunder God, you'd be like, well, throw your ass back into the institution, dude. Go get some help, take some meds, electroshock therapy, or, in this case, he got a lobotomy. It's just all right.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so, all right.
It was cringing. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely was. So, definitely a highlight episode if you guys are going to, kind of cherry pick which ones to watch. Episode 6 with Lord Raiden is definitely one of them. All right, moving on. Episodes 7 and 8. Now, these two are the highlights episodes of the season 1 to me. So it goes through Scorpion and Hanzo, right? So, and an ensuing vendetta he has against Sub-Zero. It's explained beautifully through this short period piece set in feudal Japan. The characters actually speak Japanese with costumes that seem to be hailing from that period, and it's all well done. Ian Anthony Dale plays Hanzo, who eventually becomes Scorpion. He's tricked into leaving his clan and family behind, where Sub-Zero ostensibly attacks Hanzo and his people. Once Hanzo comes back to his village, his wife and son are both dead, and once being killed by quote-unquote Sub-Zero, it's actually revealed to be Quan Chi impersonating Bi-Han, aka Sub-Zero, and tricks Scorpion or Hanzo to become Scorpion to get his vengeance. What did you think of this mini arc?
So, like, it pretty much kept up with the regular lore, but the big differences, and a lot of people didn't quite catch it, I guess, was that Kuei Liang, like, was killed prior to, like, this whole thing. And for people who don't know, Bi-Han is the one who gets killed. Kuei Liang takes up the mantle of Sub-Zero, while Bi-Han's evil spirit becomes Noob Saibot. This one, Kuei Liang gets killed in a scuffle because he was, trying to hype himself up, and in which case he was doing some very bad stuff, and Hanzo Asashi basically strikes him down. But, like, now it's like, you have to go through, like, okay, Bi-Han's the one that's alive, Kuei Liang's dead. What happens then? So, it was definitely cool. Like, I thought it was a really good twist, even though it was, like, a slight change. Like, it did some different stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll get a little bit more into it, because there's a little more backstory given in the second season, and we'll get to that in a second. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I thought the fighting was great. Choreography was good. The actors themselves, the authentic nature of them speaking Japanese in feudal Japan, like, that just really hit home for me. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, cool. They show me this world. I'm bought into it, and it's great. So, for me,
it felt like an actual series in an episode. Like, it felt like it. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well done. I mean, CGI, this was a web series, so, like, in 2010, CGIs are decent. You could still pick it out a little bit here and there, but it was pretty decent for what it was. And yeah, so 7 and 8 to me were the highlight episodes of season 1. But let's go on to episode 9. The last episode we've got, this episode features the Lin Kuei Cyborg experiment. Again, full eye candy is in store here if you're a fan of CGI, motion capture work. It created one of the more brutal fights in the series. What are your thoughts on the costume and the CGI work?
The costumes and the CGI work were pretty good. Like, I thought so, but, like, overall, like, the best part of this whole episode is the fighting. Like, oh my gosh, the choreography on it was, like, by far the best choreography when it comes to fighting in the first season. So good.
Yep. This when they cemented the end of the season with this, I knew that, okay, this got some promise. It gave me that feeling that there's going to be a second season. They're going to get a little more money. And they're like fans of the series and trying to emulate, a good story out of it, right? So that was the end of episode 9. First season of Raw was, to me, I would give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty decent as a start. There's a couple, like, again, the third, fourth, fifth episodes with Melina and then Johnny Cage. While good, it was a little lackluster compared to the rest. So, it had its highs and lows, but overall, I thought it was pretty decent. And how would you rate it?
Honestly, like, around 7.5. I'd even give it as much of an 8, to be honest, because, like, as a massive lore nerd for when it comes to stuff that, like, I get super passionate about, it was cool to see, like, big tie-ins with the lore and then also kind of giving it a new spin to it. So I was like, ooh, this is like an alternate universe, almost like,
right.
The multiverse with Marvel and DC and all that. So I'd agree with the 7.5, maybe a little bit higher to an 8.
Yes, sir. Okay, so, it was, I think the season 1 debuted in 2010, 2011, and then we didn't get the next season until 2013. So the budget got bigger, and now we have some people recast. As the budget got bigger, they could get some different actors in. So episode 1, we get treated to Liu Kang, who turns out to be a drunkard and gets into a huge bar fight. Mark Dacascos plays Kung Lao. You might know him from John Wick 3 and The Iron Chef. Episode ends off with Kung Lao getting punched by Liu Kang, and a seemingly wider divide occurs between the former friends. What's your thought on the beginning episode here for the season?
This one, like, when I first started watching it, I didn't know who that was, because I was like, what is going on? Like, and then you find out it's Liu Kang, and that's when your whole world of Mortal Kombat turns upside down.
Right.
Because, Liu Kang in regular Mortal Kombat lore is this prideful and honorable fighter who is like literally the poster child of like good guy in Mortal Kombat. And then you just watch him as he's in this downward spiral of hate and, despair. It was amazing. I thought it was great storytelling.
Yeah. Again, it's a good opening because it kind of, like you said, gets you questioning and thinking like, what the hell's going on? Like, why do I care about this? And then all of a sudden you do care, and then the realizations hit you, and you're like, wow, okay, where are we going here? Where is this taking me? So I thought it was a good opening. I'm still happy that Kung Lao is Mark Dacascos. Everyone should know him from the Iron Chef, and then most recently, off the top of my head, where he was in John Wick 3. You're like, cool. Like, these are some like name people at the time. They were like, again, on the meteoric rise of their careers, and they get to get these particular actors, which is really great. All right, yeah. Episode 2, a flashback for Liu Kang. He's living his life with his girlfriend as like a short cook in a diner with his girlfriend Molly. After what we infer from what happened to Molly, we get a hint of what's going on with the tournament. What do you think of this like little flashback, a little more cleared statement on what's going on with Liu Kang?
It's like I said, it's a definite difference between like what happened in Mortal Kombat 1, because in the actual like Mortal Kombat series, he's like after Katana, and Katana are like an item. But it's so weird because you don't know where this takes place until like a little bit later, and it feels weird because it's a completely different like path that happened. And I thought it was really cool, like the way the episode was structured, but it gave that backstory to that specific Liu Kang. So don't go into this episode thinking you know about Liu Kang, because it's completely different. So
yeah, really frames it in a different format. So again, it answers a few more questions, but also gets you more questions. So like, how did we end up here, right? All right, moving on to episode 3. Lord Raiden prepares the fighters and gets them to understand what's at stake, and we get a backstory of Kenshi. He saves a traveling merchant from robbery and is given the opportunity to find the sword of Sento, which is guarded by the demon Ermac. One thing to lament is that in the first seasons, the costumes look pretty simple but authentic, and we actually had people speaking Japanese in Japan, but unfortunately the costumes look a little cheap, and somehow everyone's speaking English in Japan now. So that's my only one negative thing I have to say about that. But what do you think about this little setup of an arc for Kenshi and his fight and his quest to find the sword of Sento against the demon Ermac?
I mean, it kind of pertained to the lore for the most part on that. I thought it was a really good episode. It wasn't my favorite for sure, but it was very like near the end. It was very good structure wise when it came to the choreography and how they wanted to go about the fight scene. It went the way that I thought it was going to go, so I was pleasantly surprised at like the CGI. I thought it was a lot better this season than it was last season, but the Kenshi Ermac fight, it's just good fun at that point.
Well, it leads into episode 4 because it continues his arc. Kenshi is going to confront Ermac. Ermac blows up the cave and leaves Kenshi blind. Then that's the past, and now we're in present day. Kenshi's in the grounds of the tournament, is trying to hunt down Ermac for revenge, it seems. Big fight ensues, and like you said, the choreography is really good and well done on the CGI, given its budget and timing, of course. And we've gone back to fantasy here, but it's really interesting at least. Not a little slow like the Katana Melina stuff last season. So, what'd you think of the fight? You said the choreography was really good, right?
Yeah, I thought the choreography was really good. I thought the way the fight ended was good as well, because it kind of... What I originally thought they were going to do was that they were going to make it so Kenshi didn't have those powers. But the way they did it and the way that the CGI worked made it at least authentic to the character. Like, he's not overbearing with his powers. Like, he keeps them hidden, and then when he's ready to strike, that's when you know he has the powers, but it's already too late. So that's what I felt with Kenshi. It was like, it was perfect for Kenshi.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Not the highlight, but it was definitely good. Okay, moving on to episode 5. This is now back to Katana and Melina. Katana realizes her father isn't Shao Kahn, and her mom committed suicide to prevent living under his reign. Katana and Melina stumbled upon Kenshi and Ermac's fight, and then on the other side, they see Johnny Cage, who is now played by Casper Van Dyne. For those who don't know, he's the guy from Star Troopers, right? Or Starship Troopers, I should say. So Melina hears Johnny Cage come around, and she goes straight after him. Cut end of the episode. I guess it's a little more like a setup for the next episode, on episode 6 here, but what do you think of what happened in episode 5?
It honestly felt more like a teaser.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of went back to season 1, getting us caught up with Katana and Melina, and then it re-showed the fight from a different angle for Johnny Cage, you know, and of course Johnny Cage being like, oh yeah, there's 2 sexy women over there, let's go.
Yeah.
And then he finds out, like, that's the worst thing that you could be happy about right now. I thought it was funny, but overall, like, I felt like this was kind of a downside to the season. Like, it was just to kind of prep for the next episode, so I wasn't entirely hype, you know, for the episode itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. It wasn't it's probably one of the lower episodes to me. But it ties into episode 6 here, where we get a little more backstory on Johnny Cage. He's in jail after fighting again, and now Lord Raiden pays him a visit to recruit him for the Mortal Kombat tournament. Now, cut to the tournament where Melina and Johnny are fighting. Johnny gets the upper hand here and there, but in the end, Melina pins him to his shoulder with a sai into a tree. And this is where the truth comes out that Melina learns Katana's not Shao Kahn's daughter, and they are not siblings after all. Breakout fight ensues, Katana and Melina, and we have a beautiful scene where Katana half decapitates Melina. Like, just basically cuts her off where her mouth is. So
yeah, it was brutal.
So any thoughts on how this one played out for you?
I thought the fight scenes were good in general. Like, building up Melina to be strong because she had that Tarkatan blood in her, so like, it made sense why she had the physical strength over Johnny Cage and Katana. So Johnny Cage and Katana had to kind of work together. I thought it was good in general. Even like the whole mouth thing with Melina was done very well, or at least I thought so. There were some times where it looked a little wonky, but overall, like, it looked really well. So I would definitely have to say this episode, like, even with the slow pace of the previous episode, this episode was pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to episode 7. We're back to Japan, where there's no Japanese in here. Episode's about Bihan and his backstory. So we have the 2 clans that, Bihan's clan and Hanzo's clan. They've always been at war with each other, and it will forever be this way. So Bihan's younger brother stops Hanzo and Hanzo's family on, like, a neutral walking path, and it's inferred that they fight each other and that Hanzo kills Kuei Lang, right? So, moment of redemption, Bihan realizes that there shouldn't be a war over Kuei Lang's death, and proposes a truth. So this episode is like basically a prequel to what happened from the events in season 1 and told from Bihan's perspective. It'd be well done if it had the exact same quality production as the first season. It's a little lacking to me still, but overall, I mean, I thought this was cool. It wasn't the most mind-blowing episode, but I thought it was nice to flesh out more of the context of what happened. And like you said, it's a little flip on the original lore story of Bihan and Hanzo, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it was very well done. In general, when it came to this new new main plot to the lore of, like, Mortal Kombat. So I thought it was really good in general. I wish Bihan would have survived. So in that way, it felt more like it would have been like, okay, what's gonna happen next season with Sub-Zero still alive? But at the same time, we know what happens with that. So
yeah. All right, moving on to episode 8. Bihan is shocked to know that his clan has destroyed Hanzo's clan, and he finds basically an oracle to give him the information he's missing. And he finds out all about Quan Chi, misrepresenting him and all this kind of stuff. And we get to the field, like, this is the field that they were as kids, and now this is where one of them's going to die. It seems like. So there's the big fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion. What'd you think of this little fight?
Fight was good. Again, like, kudos to the people who made Mortal Kombat Legacy and who they hired. The choreography on all these fight scenes are so good.
Yeah, they're good.
Top tier choreography. And it made me invested in to see what was going on. Like, normally for a series, I'll just kind of watch off to the side while I'm doing something. Like, I was glued. watching this. Like, I had to see what was going on with every step. So
Yeah, choreography is great. The only thing I will have to nitpick is the costumes look not great. The first season was like a lot more simple, kind of a little more homage to the older Mortal Kombat's, but this one's kind of like armor pieces kind of stuck together, at least to Sub-Zero. Wasn't a fan of it, but that's just me. Anyways, the episode ends with Scorpion ripping Sub-Zero's spine out of his body. So typical Mortal Kombat video game style. Good here. Now, episode 9 and 10. Okay, so 9. Liu Kang has an impromptu meeting with Shang Tsung. Shang Tsung shows up at the diner. He's talking to him, trying to convince Liu Kang to fight for Outworld by appealing to his jadedness of humanity. And to give people a heads up, the Shang Tsung actor is Kerry Tagawa, because he came back from the original Mortal Kombat movie to play Shang Tsung here. He's aged, obviously, but this is great to bring out a Hall of Fame person of Mortal Kombat acting to come back and reprise his role. So, thoughts on this little kind of quick impromptu episode?
So, what's really cool about this episode is you find out that the events that happened with Liu Kang happened after the first Mortal Kombat tournament he participated in and won. So that's when you know, like, this takes place right after Mortal Kombat, the
1995 movie. Yeah.
So it was like, not only was it taking place after, but you see Kerry doing Shang Tsung again, and I was like, no way! Like, I got so stoked. I thought it was a fun episode, and it's one of those fillers that felt more informative than the previous ones.
Right. No, I agree with you on this one. I guess for me, the nostalgia of seeing Kerry Tagawa back as Shang Tsung kind of like drew me in a little more and got me into it. But that's how that ended. So, all right, last episode of the season, episode 10, flashback to Kung Lao meeting Liu Kang once he dealt the karma that was that happened to his girlfriend to the people that killed her. It turns out it was like pretty interesting philosophical debate where Kung Lao is just like, look, man, you can't mete out your own justice. You're not a god. And Liu Kang is like, well, I fought in the Mortal Kombat tournament. You know, I'm supposed to be Earth's protector. I need to protect the Earth from those kind of people. You know, it's just kind of interesting how they talk that out. Now, flashback to current day. Liu Kang meets the Earth champions and start fighting them. First, he starts beating up on Johnny Cage, then Stryker, and then finally, Liu Kang meets Kung Lao. They have their own little talk, and that's the end of the season. And of course, unfortunately, the end of the series. So, thoughts on the last episode here?
Liu Kang literally looked like a champion who was just undefeatable. Like, throughout the fight between him, Johnny Cage, and Stryker, and especially when Stryker tried to tase him, I was like, you literally look and you're like, Liu Kang is literally an unstoppable machine. He looks menacing, and you never thought you would see Liu Kang in that way. But it worked, and I thought the episode overall, the structure was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good towards the end, and kind of sets up, you know, like we're in the Mortal Kombat tournament now, right? So instead of, I mean, it was nice to have the backstory, but I wanted to see this next Mortal Kombat tournament with now Liu Kang fighting for Outworld, right? It's just kind of interesting to see. So unfortunately, though, this is where the series ends. I don't know exactly what happened. Didn't get enough research time on that, but looks like it doesn't matter because now we've got the Mortal Kombat movie coming out this week. I'm pretty excited for it. Yeah, give your quick wrap-up thoughts on Legacy as a whole, and let us know about that, Tystra.
I would definitely say for anybody who hasn't seen it, watch the whole thing. It's definitely worth your time to watch it because it's literally like 2 hours. Like, that's less than how long movies are nowadays at this point. So if you got 2 hours, 2.5 hours to like kind of binge watch it, I highly recommend it. It's so good and so worth the watch.
Yeah, it's short. I think, like I said, anywhere from 5 to 12 minutes an episode. There's like at 9 to 10 episodes. It's gonna take you maybe like 2.5, 3 hours to binge watch all 2 seasons. Again, there's some highlight moments, a lot more highlight moments than not, but again, I have to mention there are highs and there's some lows. Yeah, I thought overall it was pretty good. I personally think my favorite episodes were the Sub-Zero Hanzo arc in season 1, and then this one on season 2, I'm gonna say it's gonna be the where we get the last 2 episodes where we get more of like fleshing out of Liu Kang's backstory. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for us reviewing Mortal Kombat Legacy. I'm sure you can find it on Machinima or somewhere on YouTube, because it was a web series. It was on Machinima, so you can find it here on YouTube somewhere. But with that said, hopefully you guys enjoy Mortal Kombat Week. It's been fun. Tyson, anything else before we go?
Yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoy Mortal Kombat coming out, so let us know.
Yeah, be sure to be looking out for our review of it. We'll be watching it, enjoying it in its gloriness. So, with that said, guys, on behalf of Tyson and myself, we're out. See you guys next time.